All right, it's always a good time on Pipe It Up when we have multiple guests, especially when one of them is our editor and one of them is one of the more polarizing players in the league. Talking about Patrick Baalman and Drew Davis, respectively. Jack, it's just having Drew on. Credit to Patrick Baalman, but having Drew on, it's just something about it. It just feels like Pipe It Up, especially mid-season.
It never fails. The PB interview was fantastic, and it was a bit of a warm up.
I would agree
for Drew's interview. So make sure you stick around for that. But great series, great outing. We got rain game, cold weather, just pure wiffle ball in the beginning of the season. A lot to talk about today.
A lot to talk about indeed between Jack, myself, and our two guests. Sit back and enjoy it. This is the Pipe It Up podcast, and cue the intro. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Pipe It Up podcast, the official podcast of MLW Wiffle Ball. Jack, turns out there was a reason that PB was drafted number 1 overall, and he showed why this weekend.
Absolutely. This was a validating series for not only Patrick, but just Wildcat Nation, I think, who have had a lot of high expectations for this team the past 2 years, and it definitely showed. Pat posted a picture after the series. I commented on the picture, someone learned how to throw a ball, because the series kind of reminded me, I don't know what the movie is rated. So if it's rated, if I'm missing, I can't remember if there's any bad scenes in it, but if it's a not kid-friendly movie rated wise, don't watch it. But the movie Happy Gilmore, where Happy, there's a point in the movie where like he learns how to putt, and that was like what I felt like watching Pat learning how to throw a ball. He was doing such a good job at commanding the zone and getting hitters to chase in a lot of really, really interesting ways. So we've got him joining us later. I'm excited to have him on, but yeah, what a series.
Yeah, and not that much later, Jack. I think he's about ready to go here. He's in our Zoom call. PB, can you hear us? You got your ears on?
Loud and clear. Thanks for having me on, guys.
I mean, this is your show too, right? You're the editor here.
Later is now.
Later is now. We appreciate you joining us. Know you're a busy guy. I'm sure the pods have been keeping you busy the last few weeks, few months. How's it been going behind the scenes, by the way, before we start talking to you as a player? Need to know how our editor is doing.
No, everything's doing good. I think it's a lot more exciting on the pod when I get to listen to these interviews after series and stuff. So I'm excited to watch the videos, but also for the pods, I just feel like they're a lot better when we have games to talk about. So I'm super excited going forward, but it's been good. It's been really good.
Well, what do you mean? You don't like listening to Jack as a humble homeowner? I like that. I don't think anyone else does.
Oh, the baby brain. I love it.
That was Pat's nice way of saying we could just skip the off season.
I'd like to think that there's people out there that really enjoy listening to us through the months of November, December, January, February, March, and April. But who am I to say that? Yeah.
Who knows? I hope so.
I just talk into this thing and hope that someone out there cares what I say,
Yeah.
Yeah. That's really it.
Sure. I mean, we're potting in the off season. You're editing, Pat. You are also, as we discussed the last time you were on, putting in a lot of work in the off season on the mound, just getting things figured out, obviously figuring out some new pitches. I got to think that there were maybe, obviously excitement, but maybe some nerves just whenever you like commit to something that much, you obviously want to see it pay off. So I guess how confident or, nervous were you going into this series knowing like you really doubled down on the work, this past off season, and coming into this series and just, your expectations?
Yeah, so I mean, there was definitely a little bit of nerves, but I think I went into this one having a lot more fun and a lot more confidence, because last year it was different because I was kind of going there being like, oh no, what if I can't throw a strike? This year was kind of a whole different thing where I'm like, yeah, no, I'm like, I don't know, it's just like that uncertainty of like, what if I just absolutely suck, can't throw a strike? And then this year I was like, well, I know I could throw a strike. I think that was honestly my problem last year, throwing too many of them. So now I got to just like be more strategic about going about things. So a little bit of nerves going in, but after that like first inning, I really just all the nerves went away, and I was just having a blast out there. I have a really fun team that I'm excited about to keep playing with. So not as many nerves as the first time around, but definitely a little bit.
Yeah, I think it was in your post game interview you talked about how you threw too many strikes last year. And I agree, there's an art to it. You know, there's plenty of pitchers in this league who have the opposite problem. But for those that can command a pitch where they want it, sometimes you don't want to be right down the middle every time. So you use that to your advantage. But was there anything else from your rookie year you think that you really thought back on or maybe saw in film and you thought about and it translated into something that's now you're using to your advantage as a sophomore?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, the main thing was like not throwing it down the middle every time. I think if you watch back last year, that was kind of my main issue. Everyone was just hitting me really hard, and I think if you look at this video, you can see a lot of them. It looks like they're chasing all the time, but it really wasn't the case. I had to get ahead in the counts a lot and then just throw some junk. But another thing, I don't know if I said it on the podcast or if I was talking to someone, but at the end of the season last year, I really wanted to find a new pitch that really no one really throws that much and just be able to throw it for a strike most of the time. And I think people saw that like sidearm knuckleball slider kind of combination was something I've been working on for a long time. And I think that really helped me because I didn't even know where the ball was going to go. So if I got to two strikes, it was kind of unpredictable. And it was kind of a good pitch to go to there. So, yeah, just trying to make guys chase. Learned a lot from Robles with that when I get ahead in the count. And then that knuckleball really helped me out.
I was going to ask about the knuckleball because those are some tasty clips. You're probably going to end up cutting some of those up and putting those into some short form eventually. So I wanted to ask, was that, it sounded like you've been working on it for a while. Had you had that pitch in the bag and didn't really pull it out last year just because you weren't confident in it, or was that a new development this offseason?
Yeah, so it was something that I threw it a couple times last year, and it was pretty good, but it was so unpredictable, and I couldn't even really get it anywhere near the zone most of the time. So I went back or when I came down to Florida, I just that's all I did like all winter is just practice like the sidearm knuckleball makes it a lot easier for some reason to control. I can get it kind of near the zone, which I need to do. So I would have pitching sessions where I would only play a 3 inning game and I'd only throw that pitch just so I can learn how to throw for a strike. So yeah, just working on that. I think it's really going to help me going forward as well. So hopefully it keeps on being able to find its way near the zone.
That's nuts. See, the work that PB is doing in the offseason, like that's what you don't want to be doing out there on the field. You don't want it to take 3 games and be like, oh, yeah, if I throw this knuckleball sidearm, it's a lot more accurate versus how I've been doing it the first 2 series I've been out there. So the fact that you actually put in the work this offseason, I can't say every guy in the league does that, and I don't hold them to that. This is a fun thing that we all do, and we try to play to the best of our abilities, but not everybody has the capacity to really train in the offseason. So I think it really showed. And again, I mentioned, like Jack said, how you put in all that work and you hope it translates. It 100% did. Jack watched the video before I did, and he's like, dude, watch it, because PB, he found it. He 100% found it, and he was not wrong. In the rain, nonetheless. You weren't really playing in ideal conditions either. That was probably a little frustrating when you're so confident in this new arsenal you developed, and all of a sudden the ball's wet, it's cold, windy, but you still had great command. Like, we'll get into a crazy stat in a second from Stat Sean, but walks were not a problem. So how'd you manage the ball and the weather, and what was I don't know, I always struggle with that. So how'd you do it successfully?
Yeah, that was like another thing that I probably should answer when you asked about the nerves, because I was confident, or I was a little nervous, and then we got there and it started raining like really right when we got there, and it got really cold. I was like, oh brother, this is gonna be bad. I'm not gonna be able to feel anything. But then when I went out there for warm-ups in the first inning, I literally could not feel my hand, and I was hiding the ball under my jersey, and I would have to use both hands to figure out where the holes were because I couldn't figure out, like I couldn't feel it with my hands. My hands were so cold. So yeah, it was definitely tough, but I just feel like it was almost muscle memory at the end of the day because I really couldn't feel I couldn't feel any of my fingers. But I got the job done, I guess. But yeah, it was tough. It was not good conditions. So I don't blame anyone who had a tough time throwing strikes.
That's actually the worst when you don't prepare. That's classic Michigan weather for it to, I don't know what the forecast said, but it being cold and wet is twice as bad when you didn't plan on being cold and wet. Like if you knew it was going to be cold and wet, you could prepare, and it's like, okay, you kind of know what you're getting yourself into. When it's unexpected, it makes it twice as bad. So yeah, that I can't even imagine trying to throw a wiffle ball, like not being able to feel your hands. That's so frustrating. Even in lacrosse, like playing in cold weather, when you can't feel your stick through your gloves, it makes everything so much harder. But yeah. I go ahead.
I was just gonna say, yeah, and I looked at the weather because I flew in from Florida like the day before, and I was like, oh, it's gonna be like in the 60s. I'll be fine. So I didn't bring anything. I just had the shorts and the jersey, and I had my hoodie that was just soaking wet because we were using it to dry off the ball. And it was bad. It was so cold. I don't think the video does it justice how cold it was.
Yeah, I don't think the video does. It definitely shows how wet it was, but not the cold. I wanted to ask you also, we talked a little bit about the pitching, but you batted, this whole series as well, and it seems like you changed up your stance a little bit too. Like you're a little bit more open, kind of hands out in front. Was that something you have done previously, like in other, wiffle ball settings that you kind of switched to, or how did you come up with that sort of new approach?
Yeah, so again, like at the end of the season last year, like all my seasons last year, I was like, I had to change something because my swing was too long, and because I'm a taller guy, I feel like about being up taller makes it really hard to hit anything low, and the MLW zone's pretty small, so I feel like I wasn't getting anything that was low. So I wanted to practice just staying really low and have that open stance and keep the hands like down the middle. So all you gotta do is just turn on the ball. And for all my leagues, it was working out perfectly, and like different fast pitch, medium pitch styles. And then for some reason, I was watching the video back. I was like, man, I don't know why I'm wiggling the bat so far in the middle of the plate. And everyone in the comments, or like my friends were like sending me comments like, dude, everyone's hating on your stance, which is fair. I agree with everyone that's saying I shouldn't wiggle my bat that much. It will be fixed, but it was just funny. Yeah, definitely the lower stance is helping me see the ball better. I think I had a couple hits, but I was seeing the ball pretty well. I thought it helped me a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it was. So is that like a unwritten rule kind of thing? Like you shouldn't have your hands so far over the plate. Is that like a thing I'm not aware of because I'm not a real baseball junkie? Because it looks funky, but is that like a disrespectful thing, or why were people hating on you just because it looks weird?
No, I think it was because they were saying I was late on everything because my hands were in the middle of the plate before they would pitch it, so I didn't have time to like bring it back and hit it. So it was more just like a technique thing. It wasn't like, at least I don't think people thought it was disrespectful. I hope they didn't think that, but
okay.
Yeah, no, I think it was just like a technique thing, and everyone's like saying it would look goofy, which I agree with. So I'm not hating on it, but yeah.
There's been some goofy swings in this league that work, man. It does not matter how it looks. If you're gonna bat, plus 250, doesn't matter what your swing looks like.
Very true. Wildcats, I thought hit the ball pretty well as a whole. Pat, before we have Drew on, a couple more questions. One thing I wanted to ask you is, the Wildcats, you guys had 2 draft picks that I was excited about. I think the fans were excited about last year, being yourself and Frenznick, who both played tremendous in this series. But last year, the win-loss record didn't quite show the talent you guys had. So we'll see if this trend continues this year. But you also brought in a stud, Sean Hornberger, this year at number 1 overall, who, as we saw in the draft video, is a real dual threat guy. He can pitch, he can hit, lefty, true ace type material. So did that light a little fire underneath you, just knowing that there's another guy who's going to be a great arm, a competitor, he's young, And, I'm not necessarily guaranteed to be the ace in this team because I think now it's hard to argue otherwise. But just what were your initial thoughts on that in the offseason, knowing that Hornberger was going to be joining the Wildcats?
Yeah, at the end of the day, I just want to win a championship. That's like the main thing. Like if whether that's Hornberger pitching, whether that's me pitching, I didn't really care how that happens. But as a competitor, I obviously thought that I could be the ace. So I worked really hard in the off season, just like as long as I know I'm putting in the work and get like doing everything I can to get better and help this team. I won't be upset if Kyle thinks that Sean's the better guy, and I hope that he still picks it up. I've been trying to pick him up. Like I know how it feels to go out there in your first performance and not have a start that you want to have. And I just keep on telling him, like, dude, like we all know you're a great player. It's gonna come. It takes some adjusting, but no, I mean, at the end of the day, I just want to win, wherever that takes to do so. But yeah, as long as I'm working hard, I just know that I'm giving everything I got, and whatever Kyle chooses to do, that's up to him. But
what are your thoughts on Sean? Just like being there in person in his first series. I think, we'll obviously get him on the pod, I hope at some point to get his take, but just being there as his teammate, like, I think obviously that game 2 ball might have played a factor a little bit in him trying to locate in that game 2, but his stuff looked like it was definitely moving. He had it working for a little bit. I guess what's your take for the listeners?
yeah, honestly, like the video, his at bats wise, does not do it justice just because you only see the last pitch and you missed a lot of hard hits he was having foul and having great ABs. Like he wasn't like out there chasing everything. He hit one to the warning track. He barely hit. He hits it a little bit harder and that ball's gone. And we're not even talking about his rough outing, if you want to say that. But and he hit some hard line drives on the ground. I'm honestly just so pumped that he's on our team. I think he's going to get just better and better. And pitching wise, I've seen him pitch really well, so I'm not even worried about it. It was awful conditions. I can't even imagine having to pitch at my first ever game in that style. So don't blame him at all. I'm just excited to see him get better and better because I know that he will.
Yeah, credit to both you and Caden for really throwing a lot of strikes with movement too. I was just surprised with the rain. It's one thing to not walk guys, but to do it with a lot of movement like you and Caden both were in games 1 and 3 was pretty impressive, and I was surprised just with how bad it looked out there. And I know it was cold. I've heard from everybody. Sean and Drew, albeit like wasn't the best numbers at the end of the day. That was tough out there. So I don't think that a high walk game is something to like really get concerned about, especially in the first series of the year when we always see higher walk totals. But Pat, speaking of walks, this stat is courtesy of Stats Sean. And first of all, let's talk about this. 2 games, 2 wins, Jack, for PB. 11 innings pitched, no runs. 29 strikeouts in those 11 innings. Almost struck out everybody. And only 5 walks.
That's crazy.
Crazy stat line. And into the record books here, PB. In a 20 strikeout performance by a pitcher, you had the fewest amount of walks ever in MLW history with 3 walks in game 3. The previous record there was Daniel Schultz in 2019 against the Cobras in 11 innings when he walked 6 batters and struck out over 20. So round of applause for PB getting his name in the record books there. Only 3 walks, 20 strikeouts in game 3, and the eventual win thanks to his buddy and co-draft class member Ty Frenznick. So that was pretty cool. This is impressive stuff, man. Impressive stuff.
Thank you. No, I appreciate it. Yeah, it was a super fun game, but got to keep it compounding now. We got to go out there and win our next series. So that's all I'm worried about.
I have to think that was like a big sigh of relief when Ty hit that home run, just how bad the weather was out there.
Oh, yeah. It didn't look like I don't know. I didn't feel like as hype as like that. Even like that LJ home run last year. Like I think it was just like I was so tired and cold. Like I couldn't even like get that hype. But it was such a sigh of relief. Like when that ball went over, I was like, finally, just 3 more outs. But on the flip side, and if you remember Brooklyn last year, we had a 4-run lead in extras and that one also. So I was like, oh my gosh, I cannot let that happen again. So, but yeah, no, Ty's the man. He was seeing it well all day, and we knew that someone was going to connect eventually. But shout out to Ty, man, that was awesome.
As a viewer, I was starting to lose faith.
Here's another one for Stat Sean. I would like to know if the Wildcats have ever won a series that Kyle Schultz has not recorded a hit in. I would like to also know that, because
have the Wildcats ever played a series that Kyle Schultz hasn't recorded a hit in? Is another question, Jack.
That's another question. Yeah, for sure. I mean, exactly. We're used to him being consistently, a 300 hitter, like at least. And he, I don't know if he wasn't seeing the ball good or just didn't connect on today, but the fact that the Wildcats, the fact that, Pat, you were obviously able to step up on the mound, and the other guys supported, Jackson, Ty, were able to get those 2 wins this series. I feel like it's huge. I feel like it says a lot about the Wildcats' depth. You're almost just like penciling in, a 300 series from Kyle, like, all the time. And yeah, I think that says a lot. I'd like Stat Sean to review that one for me.
Crunch those numbers for us, Stats Sean. Crunch those numbers. Crunch them for us. But PB, heck of an outing, man. Very impressive. I'm excited for you and the Cats. It's just going to be a good year, I think. And Ty might be the best hitter on the team. Is it too early to say that? I don't know. 4 hits, 4 for 10, Jack. It's an impressive performance.
Yeah, no. Like I said, I think you're happy about that. Like, you got, you won 2 out of 3 games, and your vet hitter, your vet player, the face of your franchise for the last 47 years, didn't even record a hit. I mean, it's pretty incredible.
Oh, it's true. True. All right. Well, we're going to hear from a guy on the other side of the ball in this series, Drew Davis. We're going to get him on the call in just a second. But, Pat, thank you for all that you do for the pod, for the league. We appreciate it. And we're excited to have you on the ride this year for Pipe It Up and with the Wildcats as well.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, guys. Happy to be on. Happy to talk some whiffs. Have a fun interview with Drew.
Oh, we will. We will. It'll be a little less organized than this one, I think. A little less structure. A lot more dialogue going back and forth, but we're going to enjoy it for sure. And I think the listeners
probably mostly
will as
just
well.
one way.
Don't take it personal if the listeners are more adamant in the comments about commenting on Drew's portion of the interview versus yours. That's par for the course. So don't take it personal.
Yeah.
We've got about 6-7 questions lined up here for Drew. My feeling is we'll probably get through 1, maybe, and then we'll have to.
I'd say 1.5 is the line, Jack. I mean, we will likely ask the first question, and then he will interview himself the rest of the way. Which I'm gonna love it. Yeah. I'm gonna love it. All right, Pat.
That'll be great.
Enjoy the rest of your night, and good luck with the edit this week. We will see you next time.
Appreciate you, dog.
Yep. Thanks, guys.
Class act there, Patrick Baalman, as he steps aside. We're going to welcome on Drew Davis here in just a moment. Jack, what really is, let's talk about this first before we get Drew on. I know Drew has something he wants to comment on. I don't want to spoil it because I'm curious how he approaches it now that the video is out. But we have, how many questions do we actually have here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Six questions for Drew. I think we're going to ask 2 is my prediction. 2 that are on the list.
Okay, that's fair.
What do you think?
That's fair. I think I can get us over that. I think I can work in at least 3 of these, but we'll see.
Okay.
We'll see. Well, I do think I know what he wants to talk about, but this was a special request from Drew Davis to come on the Pipe It Up podcast.
This was
which of course series, he's always welcome.
The series ended in real time. And that day, Pipe It Up after the series, I want on. I have to talk about this. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
We'll pencil that. We'll pencil you in for a couple weeks here. So that's Drew for you.
Yeah. Before we get Drew on, just a couple other notes on the series. I thought that this was a statement. Although they didn't get the win, I thought this was a statement series for Caden Irwin as the ace of the Cobras. I know you're really familiar with Caden Tommy and have watched him develop over his time in MLW, and I feel like he's a guy that just, has slowly every year just gotten a little bit better every single year. and has just adapted, more and more, mostly on the mound, obviously. But, as a Cobras fan, you hear Drew Davis is coming back. He's going to be the second arm, makes you a little bit uneasy. And again, although you guys didn't get the series win here against the Wildcats, I was just really impressed with what Caden did. I mean, he went toe-to-toe with Pat, throughout the series, and really didn't give up. His ERA couldn't have been that high, all things considered. I think really if the Cobras have an offensive day like we're used to seeing them have, that series easily could have went the other way. So I did want to mention that. I was really impressed with Caden, and I think as a Cobras fan, you should be happy about him as your number one.
No, I was too, Jack. Like I said, credit to PB, credit to Caden. I was just shocked with the quality of pitching that we saw in games 1 and 3, given the weather, and given that it was the first series of the year too, because usually guys don't have their best stuff right out of the gate. We've seen RJ come out hot. We've seen Norp have hot starts to the year, but we've had great pitchers too, like Daniel Schultz, Drew Davis in his prime, Jimmy Norp even at times, Kyle Schultz, were in outing number 1 of the year, just a little shaky, getting the feel for it, figuring out how to throw strikes again, just kind of working out the kinks of an off season where a lot of us don't train that much. PB is pretty obvious. And I was impressed with Caden too. He has really shown how dynamic he can be as an ace in terms of he's got way more movement than I remember him seeing, working as our number 2 arm a few years ago. So I think him having that ace role has allowed him to be more confident, stepping out with a brand new game ball, having time to warm up him before the series starts and stuff like that. I think he's grown a lot and doesn't really look like the pitcher we saw him as on the Mallards. So yeah, I mean, I'm really happy for him. I think it's worked out really well. And truthfully, I think he's made, this is going to sound harsh. I feel like I always hate on Drew. It's not really hating on Drew, but let's call a spade a spade. Like, Drew made some pretty wild moves last offseason, right? Was that fair to say?
Yeah.
Took some risks, built the vibe tribe. We were excited for him, but we're like, we're going to see. I think Caden Irwin has made Drew's offseason moves that he made, make them look a lot better than they could have. He's really saved, I think,
1,000%.
I think he was the most important piece in terms of whoa, you're going to give up all that for Caden Irwin, who's only really been a number 2 in this league behind Robles and has done good, but nothing spectacular that leads us to think he'll be a really good ace. So that was a huge risk that is paying off massively, and I think is saving the Cobras from being a last place team, truthfully.
100%. And that was that's kind of just building on my point. It's like, if you go, if you watch this series and Caden goes out there and looks like a number 2 arm, you're thinking to yourself, as a Cobras fan, what are we doing? Where do we go from here?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, yeah, Drew did get the win. And is him pitching, all season long as their number 2 arm sustainable? I don't know. I'm questionable. I'm suspect of that. But yeah, Caden just looks so much stronger. And if he didn't perform like that, then yeah, those moves that Drew made start to look even more, the consequences from those moves start to look even more drastic. Yeah. Yeah. So
I agree.
That's why I was happy for Cobras fans and their team in general, and Caden, just because he did have a good day. Agreed.
All right, well, let's get Drew in here, chat with him and hear his side of the story from this cold, wet, rainy, windy day at the Meadows. A man that needs no introduction, a very, very, very special guest. He's looking sharp this evening, glasses on, facial hair, well manicured. Drew Davis, welcome back to your own show, the Pipe It Up co-founder. We're happy to have you in the building, as always, as are the listeners, I think.
Happy to be here.
Well, this is per your request, like we said. So before you got on, we told the viewers, huh?
No, I feel like I request to be on every week, but yeah, no, specifically this week, yeah, I did request. And before you say anything, Aaron, do you want to say something first?
No, go ahead.
All right. I'd like to Sully, here you go. Here you go. I'd like to officially protest this game of Series 1. This is my protest.
So for the audio listeners, Drew was, I guess, essentially planking on the ground there, in protest of what were you protesting exactly? The audio cut out.
Game 3. I accidentally said game 2 in my protest. But game 3 of our series.
I'm kidding. Well,
re-protest.
No, it's okay.
No, it's okay.
We got it. Okay. 2 protests. Drew, explain to me why. Explain to me and explain to the listeners or viewers of this podcast why you would like to protest the results of Game 3.
Do you want to ask that now, or do you want to ask that later?
I mean, I think we're already here, so let's just get right into that.
All right. Sorry, I gotta go to my brother's bedroom because there's a fan on there. He's grilling in the kitchen, so it's really loud. So I'm gonna come in here. Okay. I'll tell you why. For a couple reasons. Okay. Now, everyone in the comments. I'm looking at the comments section all the time. It's about my second job at this point, and people see it. People saw what happened. There was a runner's interference call on Brendan Zerlag in the bottom of the 4th, extra innings, and just for multiple reasons. I mean, I've been racking my brain about this call for the past not only 3 days, but since we played, I don't know, 2 weeks ago, a week and a half ago, and I still don't understand how the outcome that was reached was reached.
Hey guys, it's PB again. I just wanted to make a quick note before going forward because no one mentioned why the call was actually made, so we wanted to give a quick clarification. And it's because the ball didn't pass either the 2 infielders yet outside of the pitcher, and Norp, who was the head official of the day, agreed that constitutes as runner interference. That's why the call was made. So that's the behind-the-scenes story about how the call was made, and now back to the pod.
And I'll go step by step. Okay. Here's one reason I have a problem with the rules. The MLW default is to default to MLB rules. That was what was explained to me, is that when we don't have a rule, because we were talking about it, and I said, well, what happens when he's on the base? And we figured out we don't have a rule for this, and we couldn't remember it ever happening in MLW. So we defaulted to MLB rules. Now, when you look up the MLB rules, at least what I think is
what you think or what the rule book says.
Well, I didn't read the MLB rule book because I fundamentally disagree with using the MLB rule book. But what I was told from Kyle in the moment, because how the decision was made was via Kyle, Mr. Schultz, and Jimmy Norp. That was the people who made the call. Okay. What I was explained to by Kyle is that the MLB rule states that if a runner is hit by a batted ball, that he is out. My question was, does it have any mention or bylaw for if they're on the base? And Kyle said, no, there's no bylaw that says he's on the base. And so I said, well, we should use softball rules then, or USSSA rules, other leagues that don't allow leadoffs, because the reason I said the MLB doesn't make sense is they can lead off. So it's super, super improbable that someone's ever going to be hit by a baseball while standing on a base, because they're always going to be leading off the base. Also, it's 90 feet away, so you have a lot more time to dodge a ball. So I said we should use softball and USSSA rules, which in softball and USSSA rules, other leagues where you can't lead off, it says that the batter is safe, there's no interference, the ball is a dead ball, and everyone advances 1 base. So if that would have happened in our situation, we would have got bases loaded with 2 outs. Okay. The other reason it doesn't make sense is even if you use, I had a problem with how it was called, because how it was called was Norp said per MLW rules, which I disagreed with because we had already established there was no MLW rule about this happening. But I dove deeper, Tom. I dove deeper into the rule book, and I found that what the MLW rulebook says is, like the MLB says, if a runner is hit by a batted ball, they are out. Okay? No, there's no mention of them being on the base. So one would maybe imply, because I had this argument with people, one would imply, well, that just means they're out no matter what. And I would argue wrong. Wrong, sir. Because if you look at other rules in the base running section of the MLW rulebook, for example, when it talks about fielders pegging a runner, it doesn't ever state that they have to be on, or they have to be off the base for it to be an out. All it says is that pegging, force outs, and the other kind of out apply. No mention of them being on the base. But we can assume that if you're on the base, you're safe when someone pegs or tags you. Oh, tag outs was the other one. Tag, force, and pegs. Mm-hmm. If you get tagged and you're standing in the base, you're safe. Now, the rule doesn't say that. The rule just says if you're tagged, you're out. But because of common sense rules, we can assume that it's a reasonable assumption that you're safe if you're on the base. I think that should apply to the other rule as well, because it doesn't say anything about the base. So I think we can reasonably assume that they also should be safe. I think logically it also just makes sense, because the other reason that it was explained to me was the fact that if Zerlag was deemed safe, someone could stand on the base and intentionally bat a ball out of the air to save an out. And I would say no, because that's clear intentional interference, whereas what Zerlag did wasn't clear and intentional. It'd be the same as if you were standing on a base and there was a pop fly and a fielder tried to come get it. If you're standing on the base, you can't be called for interference unless you bat them or hit them or try to hit the ball. So it just all accounts, I still don't understand how that call was made up.
I got all that. I want to say first and foremost, let's call a spade here. A lot of times, Drew, you come on the podcast and you tend to go a few different directions. This was probably the most clear, succinct argument I think you've ever made.
Well done.
You've come a long way.
Well done.
Thank you, Jack.
Well done, first of all. I'm very impressed. I guess my question would be like, how long was it discussed there? Like, was it something that was like, hey, we go by MLB, so we're just going to go by MLB? Because that makes sense to me in terms of like in the moment making a decision. You can't really debate a rule for like an hour there. You got to kind of play, but yep. Yeah,
that's what we are. That's actually why I think the discussion ended, is because what people maybe not understand is it was 35 degrees there and raining.
Pouring rain.
I would say the
freezing.
The discussion lasted probably about 10-ish minutes.
That's a long time.
And then
10 minutes is a long time.
I said, I know, and it was game 3 and we had been there for 2.5 hours already. So I just ended up saying, I said, just make a call because it's freezing and we don't want to be here any longer. So like, just make a call. Either it's safe or out, because I don't want to keep debating it. And like I had said prior, I think like the reason I was upset is like, I didn't think the MLB rule should even have been brought up. Like, I didn't even want to debate the MLB rule because I didn't think the MLB rule was applicable, because we've never seen like an MLB runner be hit by a ball while sitting on first base, because he's always going to have a leadoff.
So I guess to your point, one thought exercise would be like, if there was a pop fly and in theory it was going to land directly on the base and the runner was on the base and was just standing on the base and it hit him, because they couldn't get out of the way, would they be out? Like,
to my knowledge, there are certain, I know people don't like to calling it that, but certain like safe havens on the baseball field. One is the batter's box. As long as you stay in the batter's box, you cannot be called for interference unless, again, you wave your bat or like you clearly do something intentionally to interfere with the play.
So sort of like a judgment call there. As long as you stay in the batter's box, huh? Can it be like sort of a judgment call there? I actually don't know the MLB ruling on that. I didn't research that today.
I think it can be a judgment. Like I know it mostly from being a catcher, and like on throwing balls down to the base. If a batter is standing in the box, he can just be in the box. He could even take a step into another part of the box. And if he gets hit by the ball, it does not matter because he is in the batter's box. It's safe. Now, I'm trying to say, like, if he, like, stuck his arm out of the box to purposely, like, if it was, like, something like clear intentional, yeah, that would be a judgment call. But I think it's, in most cases, it'd be pretty easily judged. And again, first, second base, third base, if you're standing on the base, as long as you don't, like, physically move your body to try and interfere with a play, you are safe. That's something that happened actually a little bit ago in the Yankees game last year. As Juan Soto was trying to get back to second base on a pop fly, in the step before he got to second base, he hit the runner, and people were saying, well, he has to get to the bag. And they were saying, no, like, you have to avoid the fielder, but if you're on the bag, once you're on the bag, you are safe.
It lost me a little bit there, but I am following your argument, Drew. I understand that you fully understand what the MLB rule is. You just don't think it's applicable potentially to the game of wiffle ball because of the differences in the dimensions, the speed of the game, etc.
Right, because my argument was that there is no MLB rule for this. Like, nowhere in the rule states if he's on the base, this happens.
So I guess I can't say I didn't actually read through the articles of the MLB rulebook. Google and AI told me that, like, a batted ball that strikes a runner that is on a bag is still considered a runner out. Now, again, I'm not saying you're wrong because I don't think you're trying to argue that. You're just trying to argue, like, how it should be deemed for wiffle ball, which I think is totally fair. I don't think that's wild to say. But I also don't think that, again, with there being, this is a scenario like I would like to think the Detroit Lions might find themselves in circa 5 years ago, where it's like you all of a sudden uncover, like, a little bit of a gray area in the rule book, and then it really costs your team. Because, again, that was a hard hit ball. I'm not denying that. But I do think, Drew, as unfortunate as it is, given what the internet says for baseball, for Major League Baseball, from what I read, and again, I'm not going to claim that I went and combed through the MLB, like, actual rule book, article by article, line by line, but based on what Google returned to me, I think this is probably, as unfortunate as it is for you, I think the right call was probably made on the field. I think it would be even crazier if it was argued based upon, like, softball rules or a travel baseball league rule like USSSA, tournament circuit, that it would go that way just because we've never done that before. But I do think, if this is something that you could potentially, let me finish, like, you could bring this to guys. It's like, hey, guys on first base, like, you can't even react to a line drive. Like, that should be a dead ball single. Everyone advances one base. If that goes to a vote, like, I'd have to think about it, but I don't think it's, like, insane. Like, I don't think you being upset is like, unwarranted. It's just a bad break. But I personally think that the right call was made on the field, as even though you ended up on the wrong side of it. That's just my honest opinion.
And two, like, it helped them. Like, the play literally helped them. So to me, the interference is even crazier because it literally, like, if
I'm not arguing that. I think you guys definitely got the short end of the stick. There was a hard hit ball that would have been a hit most likely.
I appreciate it. I appreciate the argument, Drew. I think you got a point to be made. I think, honestly, I am shocked with, to your point, the fact that we don't lead off, that this actually has never happened before.
I agree with that too.
You would think someone on second base would get hit at some point or something. Like, I don't know, but I'm honestly surprised it's never happened. I do think, it's worth, like, hey, at the end of the year, some changes, like, maybe that's a rule change you propose and revise. Like, I think your argument makes sense. It probably would be, something that's considered and voted on. But all right, let's get to some questions here. First question. We got a text from you before the series that Gus was going to be a prime feature in this series. Why no Gus? Why did we not get Gus?
So, well, originally we didn't have Zerlag. So I got the text we played on a Sunday. I think I got the text from Zerlag on, like, Friday night, Thursday night, something like that. But we had been told, like, we're playing Sunday. And I was like, I literally need to find a player to field a team. And I'm like, I think Gus is, like, the only eligible person I can get to field a team. Because, like, there are certain free agent signing rules. So I was like Gus is, like, the only one. And he never, like, officially retired. We just, like, cut him. So I was like, he's, I think, the only option. So he was down. And then once I told him at the end, I was like, hey, I don't know if Kyle was really like super into it. Cause at one point he was like, so I told him I was going to bring Gus worst case scenario. And then he was like, so you got Zerlag, right? And I go, yeah. And he goes, so it's going to be you, Andy, Zerlag, and Caden. And I was kind of like, yeah. So then I texted Gus and I was like, hey, we picked up Zerlag. You don't have to come if you don't want to, but if you want to, I'll still try and get you some ABs. And he was like, I've got golf at 4. So he's like, you guys are probably better off without me. So I was like, all right.
Poor Gus golfed in that weather. That could not have been fun either.
I know. So, but yeah, that was why I know Gus.
Okay, that's fair.
It's a tough break. Also, Drew, why am I not surprised that in the top of the first inning in your very first series of the year, you go through the fence? And I want to know.
Oh my gosh. I'm so mad at that. I'm so mad at that.
You could have caught it?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I messed up. I messed up big time.
Well, I think there's been instances, Drew, where I don't think you could have caught it. So my question is to you, when the ball goes up and you're thinking robbery opportunity, at what point do you commit, like, I'm going over the fence? And do you ever, like, think, I'm not going to catch this and it's just too late to go back? Have you ever, like, made the thought of, I'm going to sacrifice my body here and then change your mind mid-play, or is it always just full send?
So I think there's, like, there's definitely, I hate to say it, but I feel like it's almost like intuitional. Intuition. Is that a word?
Intuition.
It's like
just your instincts.
Yeah, like I've seen, like I've played in the league for 10 years. I kind of know how many steps it takes about to get to the fence. And so like I'll look at the ball, and if it's like a shot, you kind of know. Like if it's on a line, I'll give up on it. And like I think you saw that. So the grand slam against the Wildcats, that ended it basically. I like my first 2 steps, I was like, oh, I'm getting this. But then it just kept going. And I was like, never mind. But like Pearson's was
that one to get up on.
Floater. I don't know if you could tell, Jackson's was like a really weird floater. And none of us like really thought it was going out at first. And then I just kept going. I was like, oh my God, this is going. And my mistake was trying to bat it out of the air. I never committed to catching it. I like committed to hitting it back into the park, which I think really messed me up because I tried to like perfectly bat it. And I think if I just would have like fully went for it, like I definitely would have. Andy Andy will never, like, all my other ones I've gone over the fence for, he's like, you weren't even close. This one, he was like, I thought you were catching that. But I would say like, yeah,
good
honestly,
teammate.
like the 2 times, I would say one time I went over the fence because I thought I could catch it, and that was the World Series in SoFi. The time I went over the fence in the Wildcats and like completely cleared the fence, I felt like that was honestly more to like save myself. Like I felt if I dove over the fence, I wouldn't tear down the fence and I wouldn't have other people in the league mad at me.
But that was when you hurt yourself on the picnic table. That was an ugly one.
No. Oh no, that one
was bad.
That one I thought I could.
That was so bad. That hurt to watch.
I did not know there was a picnic table there. I forgot I'd gone over 3 times. Okay.
I feel like it's been more than that.
It might be more than that. Sometimes I feel like it's safest for me because I know how to like land. So if I dive over the fence, I know how to like roll and not really hurt myself. And I feel like that's almost better than just going straight into the fence. So
there was one Drew Davis high flying act over the fence. The one where you like legit jumped over and the ball was 15 feet over, where you just sprung yourself over.
That was World
Series. That was World Series. No, this one was at the Meadows. Yeah. At the Meadows.
Oh, the Wildcats
in right center field. Remember this?
Yeah, against
you just would full sprint over.
Pearson.
That one was actually, I made a little TikTok of that, a little short form clip, and that one was actually removed within like 30 minutes for being a dangerous act. So it was taken down from TikTok by the application.
What a bunch of losers.
That's actually crazy.
I'm serious.
So that's my answer.
I wanted to ask you, Drew, from, we've got some people in the league, they've been around a long time. They may or may not host a podcast that have been struggling a little bit more over the last few years, at the plate as their seasons continue, as their careers continue. You seem to be a veteran that just year in and year out consistently hits for contact, for power. You show up in the big moments. I guess, how do you do it? What's your approach, and how have you been able to stay so consistent over all these years?
Well, Jack, when Charlie goes down to Georgia, He doesn't play a flute, Jack. He plays his fiddle, right? He plays his best instrument. And my best instrument is swinging. You can't get on base if you don't swing. And that's something I feel like I've changed throughout the years is early on, I was like trying to work counts and try to like hit good pitches, hit good balls. And now I would say my average is taking a little bit of a toll. And even like my on base, like my walks are down, but the pitchers are so good now that like you can't like do that as much, I think. So honestly, I just go up there and if like I don't swing at least 2 times, it's a bad at bat. Doesn't matter how it finishes. Like if I don't swing at least 2 times, unless it's like I hit the first pitch, but like I strike out and I didn't swing 2 times, I just blame myself. I'm like, you dummy. You have to swing to hit the ball. So I just try and go up there and like swing every pitch.
Gets his licks in.
Kind
of like that, honestly. Jack, let's just start letting it fly. Let's let it rip.
I mean, that might be what I do this first series here. I might just, I'm going to say, hey, I got to swing twice here.
I mean, Drew, you do have
no matter what.
You do have bad swings and misses, but you also, again, you hit like 3, 4, 5, 6 home runs every year with a decent batting average. So,
I'm like, to me, I know that if I hit a dribbler, I would say 90% of the time, if not more, I can beat it out at first. So I'm like not worried if I just want to like touch the ball. So even if like I had to contort my body to do a bad swing and barely touch the ball, like I know like I'll probably get on base.
Yeah,
it's fair. It's entertaining to watch. The Cobras are an entertaining team. We gave a lot of flowers to Caden already, Drew, and he looked spectacular. I'd just be honest, has he surprised you with just how great he's been as an ace here the last 2 seasons?
I actually like, I feel like it's kind of cliche, but I don't feel like I was that surprised. I think like Caden was in a tough situation with your team just because you had like Jordan and then depending on the year, some other good pitchers. And I think like a lot of time Caden was pitching like and also because Caden is so good pitching with a new ball, I'm not sure if you know this, but a lot of times he fell into the role on our team of being the game 2 pitcher because that scuff ball in game 2, like we've talked about on this podcast, I don't know, countless times, it starts to act more like an unscuffed ball. And Caden knows how to throw that really well. So I liked him in that role. And I think, and once we started pitching him in games 1 and 3, where he gets a brand new scuff ball, like he dominates. His pitch arsenal is so different. He's talked to me about it before. It's like the pitches, his approach when he's playing with a game 2 ball is completely different.
It is. That's what I was saying earlier.
So like, I'm not surprised that he's this way in game 1 and 3. To me, I like him in game 2. And I feel like his stats in the years where he's pitched game 2, his stats may not look great, but the reality is in game 2, that's the game where runs are scored. So if he lets up 3 to 4 runs in a game 2, like that's a success because you're going to score in game 2. So like those are the games you score 8, 9, 10 runs.
It's valid.
Yeah, I think he's done a great job.
His composure is awesome too. I mean, I think the last like 7 innings, he didn't even take a warm up. He just walked out and was like, I'm good. Let's go.
So how about you then on the mound, Drew? I mean, I think we got to ask about you sort of evading Norp's pregame question a little bit that was pertaining to you being on the mound. So I guess
if he asked that.
Say that again?
I couldn't even believe he asked that. He was giving it to me all day on the broadcast. Oh my God. I'm like walking out to the mound and he was like, let's see how this goes. Could get scary quick. I texted him the night before. Here, I'll tell you exactly what I texted him. I texted him the night before. I said like, hi, hey, what should we do?
This is to Jimmy?
I said, how do we win, I think?
You're looking to Jimmy for management advice.
Yep.
It's all right.
Yep.
At least he admits it.
That's good spot to look.
I can't find it, but then I asked him how to pitch, and he like said like pitch better. I was like, dude, come on, man. I can't find it right now. Sorry, I don't want to take that much time. But then he the game. He was like, dude, you're nasty as long as you throw strikes. And I was like, I know, I just don't know how to throw strikes.
Don't I know it?
But I think like just for me it was like, I've been pitching, just throwing a lot more this year in like years past. Where like years past, I would show up to wiffle ball and I haven't like thrown a projectile in 4 or 5 months. And this year with like baseball and then being more involved with blitzball, I've just been throwing. And so I'm a little bit, I've also been going to vision therapy for my concussion eyes. So that's been helping me out. I feel like the combination of those three things has helped me like be a lot more dialed in the strike zone.
So after your first series here, do you feel confident that you can be that solid number 2 arm?
Yeah, I feel pretty confident, especially like even this game, I had a lot of walks, but again, I literally couldn't feel my fingers. So releasing the ball when you're like, I'm such a touch pitcher because I rely on like spinning the ball off the holes, and I don't do any sort of like baseball like curve. I have 2 grips, and all my pitches come from those 2 grips, and it's really ball dependent. So if I don't have like a ball that really suits me, things get trouble because they either just kind of go straight or they don't like move that much. So I was playing with a good ball, but I couldn't feel my fingers, and I couldn't like really spin the ball off my hand that well. So I think like that kind of hurt me with control. Like Andy at one point was like, "Come on, let's just get out of the innings." I'm like, "Dude, I know I can't feel my I can't feel my hand."
I'm not blaming you at all for walking guys. I mean, between it being the first series of the year, the conditions being cold, wet and rainy, windy, like I'm not blaming you at all. I actually wish you luck out there. So
I'm pretty stoked because our pitching was the big question. I totally get that. Was if Jimmy didn't ask that question in the pregame, he should have been fired, because that's like the question you have to ask as a journalist. Because our hitting looks really bad, and I saw in the comments, "You gotta make a trade. You gotta trade for a bat." And I'm like, our best 2 hitters weren't at the series. Like, I wasn't expecting us to do like that great offensively. So the fact that we pitched well really, it grinded my gears in a good way.
Drew Davis, ladies and gentlemen. There's nobody like him, and there never will be. But Drew, the mustache looks spectacular, I must say. It's become really a mainstay for you. Congratulations on that. And way to get a win. You helped me out in the Waffle House bet. I got an extra point, got a 3-2 lead on Jack. Yeah, I appreciate that. This week, me and Jack both have 2-1 Gators. Tiebreaker being over under 4.5 home runs. I believe Jack has the over in that. So Jack's rooting for dingers this Friday at 4:00. But Drew,
I've got whoever plays against the Gators. I don't even know who they play. I've just got whoever plays against the Gators.
The Eagles. Playing the Eagles.
4-0.
4-0. Okay, you heard it here first. 4-0 Eagles from Drew Davis. Drew, thank you for joining us. We wish you luck, and we'll see you out there in Slate 2.
All right, see ya.
See ya. We weren't too far off on our prediction, Jack. We didn't really get a question out for the first 20 minutes. Never fails.
Yeah, never fails. I mean, the interview extended, but we did get. I think we hit the over on the questions for sure.
I think we did. We forced it. We made sure to circle back at the end, which I liked. Let's real quick, Jack. Comment of the week. I almost flew away like Mary Poppins with this umbrella, and then they said, "Never change, Jimmy Norp. Never change." Good to see Norp back on the call. And good series. It felt fitting with the rain and the elements and everything to have Jimmy back there.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's nice every once in a while. I mean, Kyle does a great job, but just having like a little switch up, it just makes the video like feel a little bit different. And Norp does do a really good job. You always did a really good job too. Mark always did a great job. Loved hearing Mark on the calls.
Will we get Mark in the All-Star game again, you think, on the call? It's like a tradition.
I hope so. That'd be really cool. That would be. I hope so.
Yeah, I do want to plug this year. All-Star Day is happening at the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor, here in Southeast Michigan, and it's going to be a really cool event. So those of you that are around or you want to do a little road trip, definitely check it out. I believe all the details were listed on the Instagram today, MLW_Wiffle. So check that out for more information on this year's All-Star Game and Home Run Derby, and I'm sure there's more information on MLWWiffleball.com as well. Jam-packed action on this week's podcast. 2 guests, PB and Drew, 2 opposite end of the spectrum. 1 structured interview, 1 Drew Davis lecture, and then a sub interview. But great episode nonetheless. Remote pod. I'm here in the home office, but it's a fun one, Jack.
It was really fun. Covered a lot. I mean, excited for both these teams going forward. I think it's going to be a great year. So. Yeah. Another successful video.
we do owe the fans a Waffle House punishment. I think we should make a decision by next week, Jack. We had some more comments come in. I'll have to skim through them again. A couple of funny ideas. More love for the cooking idea. Someone wanted us to run miles. Someone else wanted us to eat pizza. Pretty much seems like people want us to do some sort of food thing, whether it's cooking or eating. We'll see.
Okay.
But the cooking thing, I think the cooking thing has potential. It's just figuring out the right way to do it, Figuring out the right way to do it, I think is key.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but anything else from you, Jack?
I don't think so. This was a great pod.
It was a fun one. Well, again, this Friday is going to be Gators versus Eagles on the MLW channel, and then there's also new information about the in-person live MLW All-Star Day this year happening at the University of Michigan, home of the Michigan Wolverines. So exciting stuff. A couple of out-of-state events coming up as well. For those of you tuning in again and want to see more information on the out-of-state calendar this year for live MLW events, head over to mlwwiffleball.com and there's information on all of them. So definitely check that out. But thanks to you all for tuning in. We'll be covering Gators Eagles next week. So we'll see you on Wednesday.
Pump it up.